Hello everyone. This video is primarily about your 10th house Lord and your 9th house Lord. Alright. This is a particular yoga, or yoga is also known as a combination of planets that give you a certain time period. Alright. So you must have heard, if you are a follower of Vedic Astrology, about what is Raj Yoga and what is Dhan Yoga. I have made a couple of shorts on it, so I will try to add the time card on the top. Otherwise, you can always Google or you can YouTube. A lot of other astrologers have made detailed videos on different yogas. There are thousands of yogas. Yogas are nothing but, it's not the yoga that we do in the morning for your body, but these are yogas for planetary periods. Okay, a combination of planets of certain houses form a certain yoga or a time period in your chart. All right, so the one that I'm going to talk about is particular to your career and your profession or your business or whatever you do in your life. All right, so this one is called Dharma Karmadhipati Yoga. Okay, so I will break it down for the Western audience so that they understand it. It uses the word as dharma, which means what are your duties, what are you supposed to, what are the duties that you're here to fulfill. And then karma, everyone uses the word karma without really knowing the meaning of the word karma. So I'm going to add a time card here so that you can look at a video of mine where I've explained karma in detail. All right. So this particular planetary combination is called Dharma Karmadhipati Yoga, which means a certain combination where your dharma, which is your duties, and your karma, the things that you do, okay, or you're supposed to do, is pretty much seen, which also resonates with your career. Okay, so we will look at this particular planetary combination, which is to do with your 9th house Lord and your 10th house Lord. Okay, and we will look at a few examples with certain ascendants to see how it works out, so that people who are trying to learn astrology or they are trying to figure out if they have this particular planetary combination in their charts, they can pull up their own charts and take a look and see if they have this yoga or not. All right. So let's look at certain rules first before we start pulling up our Vedic charts and trying to see that if you have this yoga or not. Number one is the first rule is we will look at the 9th Lord, no matter what ascendant this is. Okay. And we will look at the 10th Lord. So let me give you an example with an Aries ascendant, or the Kal Purush Kundali as it's called, because it's easy to learn on the Aries ascendant because the signs and the houses are the same, right? Which means if your 10th house is number 10, which means it's Capricorn, yeah? But it all changes when the ascendants are different. So let's understand this particular yoga from an Aries ascendant. Okay, so let's pull up an Aries chart. All right, now you can see in the Aries chart, the 10th house, this is your 10th house and this is your 9th house, where number 9 is written as your 9th house and number 10 is your 10th house. So if the lords of these two planets are conjunct somewhere, or if they are aspecting each other, this is where the yoga is formed. Okay, so let's look at an example of this yoga forming in the 7th house. All right, which means Saturn, which is the lord of the 10th house and Capricorn, goes to the 7th house, and then we have Jupiter, which is the lord of the 9th house. All right, so this is also a very powerful Raj Yoga. All right, and it goes to your 7th house, and both these planets are conjunct and it's there. So Saturn hits his exaltation in Libra, and Jupiter and Saturn both are conjunct. So this is how the yoga is formed. Now this conjunction could be anywhere. in your chart, this yoga will be formed. All right. So if your 9th lord and 10th lord have some kind of a connection, that's when this yoga is formed, and it's considered very good for your career. And depending on where this particular conjunction or this combination is formed, that is where the career of a person is seen. All right. In most of the cases, the people who have this yoga usually get into any kind of a career where they have deep knowledge about the subject. They are subject matter experts, right? Because the 9th lord is nothing but higher education and knowledge about the subject. So people who have studied law usually become successful lawyers. People who have studied architecture become good architects. People who have studied to become a doctor become doctors. So people usually, if this yoga is strong in their charts, they take up the profession where they have done their higher education in. All right. So if you have questions in your chart about your children, especially about whether my children ever will go into the same field before I spend so much money for their university or not, you must check if this yoga is formed in the chart, in the natal chart. Also check it from Navamsha and Dashamsha and from the moon chart. If it's forming from most of the charts, then it's a good idea. All right. Now, before we look at examples, I would like to give you certain more rules so that you understand the strength and the weakness. Now, if the same yoga, let's look at this yoga from the Leo ascendant. All right. So let's pull up a Leo chart. Okay. So this is a Leo chart, right? So what is the 10th lord here? You see Taurus in the 10th house. So Venus is the 10th lord. All right. And we will look at their 9th house, right? Remember, this yoga is formed by your 9th lord and your 10th lord. Dharma Karma, 9th lord Dharma, 10th lord Karma. Yoga means combination, right? So there must be certain combination between the 9th and 10th. So the 10th lord is Venus, 9th lord is Mars, because Aries sits in the 9th house. So let's consider this conjunction is forming in the 2nd house. Okay. Now, Venus is debilitated in Virgo, right? And Mars considers Mercury as its enemy, right? So Mars is not very happy being in Virgo. So in this particular chart, this Dharma Karma Yoga, Adhipati Yoga, is not a very powerful one. Okay. So this person might be very knowledgeable and might have a good career, but they could face a lot of obstacle because the yoga is not forming in a Kendra or a Trikon house. Which are the Kendra houses? I'm going to mark it in the Kendra and Trikon houses. We all know that it's 1, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10. Those are the Kendra and Trikon houses. So we'll have to check where this combination is happening. Now, if the same combination, and let's keep looking at the Leo's chart, if the same combination between Venus and Mars is happening in the 3rd house, all right, it becomes a very strong yoga because Venus has the lordship of Libra. All right. So this is something we need to check when we are checking the strength of a yoga, where this yoga is forming, which house it's forming, which sign is it forming, and the 4th thing that we have to check is what are the degrees of the planets. Okay, for example, Venus is at 2 degrees and Mars is at 28 degrees, which means there is a huge difference between the 2 planets. Okay. So even the distance we need to check, right? If the distance is between 2 to about 7 to 8 degrees, it's considered as a very strong conjunction of planets. All right. So after you have figured out this yoga in your natal chart, You can look at your Navamsha chart, right, which is your D9, the second most important chart. Okay, and then you will look at your Dashamsha, your D10, if you have this yoga in your Dashamsha or not, to see how strong the yoga is. You pull up your moon chart wherever your moon sits. Okay, your Chandra Kundali. You make your moon chart your ascendant, and then you see if it's forming from there or not. All right, from your moon, which is your 9th house and your 10th house, and see if it's forming there or not. Okay, and lastly, the question is, when will it activate? Okay, so we have spoken about a Leo ascendant. So if the yoga is forming between Venus and Mars, all right, it will activate in either Venus Mahadasha or Mars Mahadasha or Venus Antardasha or Mars Antardasha. You have to look at the time periods, Dasha and Antardasha, and that's when the yoga is activated. Okay. Now, the other questions I get is, okay, I have this yoga, but what will I actually do? Whether I'll do a job or will I do a business? So for that, look at my video. It's in that I'm going to add a time card here so that you can figure out. I've made a separate video on which suits you more, job or business. Usually, if the combination is happening in your 7th house or even in your ascendant lord, all right, it's considered to be very, very good for business and doing your own thing. But if your 6th house is stronger than your 7th house, all right, 6th house is where you see employment, where you work for other people, all right. If your 6th house is stronger than your 7th house, you will probably be employed instead of starting your own and doing your own business. All right, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm happy to answer your questions, and stay tuned for more. Thank you very much for your time.